Hi, life has never been easier. We can order food, book a cab, or stream entertainment all at the touch of a button. Yet we somehow become one of the most anxious and lonely generations of all time. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? Despite all the technology and tools we have, most of us still say things like, I just can't stop my mind. I don't know why I'm overthinking so much. In my own life, when I've been in that space, I have found that talking to people helps. Just realizing that we all share similar stories, struggles, and questions. And often the answers are hidden in these stories, sometimes revealed in the simplest of words of a friend or a stranger. So, as you listen, I invite you to pause, reflect, and maybe find a piece of your own story here too. I promise it'll be worth your time. Hi, Nazia. How are you doing today?
Hi, Anuj. I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us. That is something that we've been looking forward for a while. I've recorded a few episodes where I've given some kind of monologues, but I really wanted to do something where we, have an interaction one on one. So before we begin, what I'll want to do is I'll just introduce myself and then introduce you to the listeners. So first up, my name is Anuj, and I talk about my personal journey and my encounter with injury and pain, which kind of changed my perspective towards my mind and which kind of was tricking me and kind of lying to me. It increased my journey of recovery, but it was also a lot of pain that I encountered. What I see now is a lot of clarity going back, thinking about those times. So you can find more about that on my website, outofyourmind.com. So without taking much time, I'd like to introduce you to Nazia. Nazia is a guest today, Nazia Tasleem. She has built her career across the world's leading organizations, some of them including Citi, Deloitte, Nokia, and HCL. She holds a master's degree from the State University of New York at Buffalo and a certification in AI applications in people management from Wharton. But what makes Nazia stand out is it's just not her professional degrees, but it's the way she blends expertise with lived experience. She's authored over 15 research papers, served on editorial boards, and is deeply passionate about the intersection of technology, people, and well being. Nazia has also written moving pieces on grief and workplace stress, drawing from her own journey of loss and resilience. She brings a perspective that is not just analytical but deeply human. And that's why we are so excited to have her with us today to talk about themes that affected so many of us but often stay unspoken. So, Nazia, once again, welcome to the show. And please, if you could introduce yourself to the listeners as well.
So, thank you so much, Anuj, for that kind introduction. You've captured my professional side um, so generously, and I'm really grateful for that. But if I were to introduce myself in my own words, I'd say I'm a complete work in progress. So, I've had the privilege of building a career across industries, um, you know, submitting research papers, more than 15. Or right now, I'm a director, HR, technology, and data strategy with ClinRay. Yes, I am all those things. I'm also an AI in HR enthusiast. I'm also a lot many things other than what my professional journey encapsulates. But beyond these titles and accomplishments, I'm also a daughter who's still learning how to live after losing my mother. I'm also friend, a sibling, a spouse, so many things, right? I'm also an entrepreneur. I had something which is very, very new that I've discovered is this entrepreneurship thing. And I'm happy to share with you, Anuj, that I'm launching a product which is going to be my gift to the world, which I'm calling Olami. And we'll talk about it a little more going ahead. But yeah, so I'm a budding entrepreneur also, more so an individual who's on a journey of finding my own self, living consciously, and testing my own boundaries and potential to see what all am I capable of. So yeah, that's why I'm a little bit of everything and still figuring out a work in progress.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's very candid. Also, one thing that I always think about is we talk about mindfulness a lot, but why is it so important to all of us, and why are we now talking about it more than we have talked about in previous times? So for me, when I think about mindfulness, or I think about the most important thing that we have is the gift of life, right? And I would like to take your take on it. But when I think about it, I think it more like my quality of life, or the experience that I'm living in is basically how we perceive this journey of life, right? Now, there is one way of thinking about it, that I can get something flashy, a bigger house, or change my life moment by moment, day by day, by being happy and content. So that is how I think about my quality of life, or the experience of living. We can either have a rich or meaningful experience, or we can get caught in the stories that our mind creates us, something very similar to what I experienced when I was in pain. But most of the time these stories are not entirely true, right? They're just figments of our imagination. Like, one is like, I'm not good enough. What if everybody finds out something about me? Or maybe it was my fault. Very, very similar stories, or for what we were chatting, previous to this conversation also. So what I sometimes think is that there are three ways to look at our minds. One is, I kind of put a goal in front of me and say I'll be happy when I reach a certain place, which is somewhere very similar to most of the thoughts that most of the people, the kind of thoughts that most of people have. Like, once I get there, I'll be happy. And then there are other times when we go through some kind of pain, or grief, and the mind convinces us that this is how it'll always be. It'll never change, and this grief will stay with me, and I'll always be very miserable. So that is again a story. We've all gone through that, and we will talk about that also. But there is a way that life, teaches you, and you kind of come out of that as well. But at that very moment, it looks very big, right? And the third aspect, where we kind of bring you in also, Nazia, is of course the biggest part of our lives, like 70 to 80% of our time is at work, right? Which kind of shapes how we think and feel day to day. Now, when I was thinking about having this conversation with you, I especially thought about the workplace side. But
Yeah.
like you already said, please feel free to bring in other areas of experiences, of your life experience as well. So what do you think about this topic? Anything that you want to share, Nazir?
So, one thing which is very eminent and something very profound that I came across is womb is the place that light enters you. It's something that Rumi said. And this was a learning when I dealt with profound grief. I mean, I will talk to you more about grief because not many people understand. I have my own very peculiar take on grief. But keeping that aside, what I can tell you is that grief gave me a gift of wisdom. And that wisdom is not that I've become an Einstein overnight, but the wisdom around how I actually want to consciously live my life. Nazia is not just someone with a professional title. I'm not just someone's daughter or a sibling or a spouse or whatever label one may want to put in. Nazia is all those and much more. But then how I define myself is the most important part. And how have I started looking at my own self is through a conscious way of living life. Even if it is that for certain weeks, I don't want to wash utensils or cook, it's a conscious choice. It may sound silly to the other person, but for me, it's a choice. And I have consciously decided that this is going to make me happy. Please understand that your mind is going to play games with you. Initially, you will feel that, well, if it is not organized, if it's kept like that, big deal. Everything is okay till the time it isn't, right? And I think that is what mindfulness is. You are more conscious about what is it that you want, and you also are aware about the fact that what you want today may be very different than what you want tomorrow, and it's perfectly all right. So nobody should question you and say, hey, you were saying this yesterday, or you said this in 2020, but you are saying this now. Yes, of course, because I'm not the person I was in 2020, and I'd like to believe you also are not that same person. What is the point if we haven't evolved? Like, it's important, right? So coming back, when we were talking about mindfulness, I think grief gives you wisdom and you learn cherish life, which also tells me many times people segregate life with work, right? There are a lot of people who have work life balance. Why is work not a part of your life? Why have you kept that in a different box altogether? I think it's important that people talk about work being a piece of life, which is important, which consumes almost one third of your life, 8 hours. 8 hours you sleep, most people do or don't. And the other 8 hours is food, drive, calls, friends, spouse, family, whatever. But like one third, which is very, very significant, is going to be your work because there's a different level of satisfaction that you gain out of work. And unless that makes you happy, you must question yourself. Somebody recently told me that, well, I am 45. What do you expect? for me to change everything I have achieved in my career? I said, yes, if that doesn't make you happy anymore, it's your ship. Change the direction,
Right.
right? So it's as easy as that, but it's as complicated as you want it to be. My 2 cents on this is, even if you plan to sleep for the next 20 hours, unless you're happy in your mind that this is the way I'm going to rejoice and not feel guilty after, treat yourself until you don't feel happy about it.
Makes a lot of sense. So essentially, what you're saying is that it's a choice that you're making. That choice can be anything in life, and that choice kind of makes you happy. If you're happy with your choice, that is. I don't know if that makes
You do
sense.
you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
somebody told me, oh, I like trekking. Till one day I did not enjoy it anymore. Fair
Right.
enough.
Right. Right.
Do
Right.
something else.
All right. So I'll move to the next question that I wanted to ask you, Nazia. Was we were chatting before this show, and you mentioned something very interesting about your nephew and the mental stress that he went through. Anything that you want to share on that story, or something similar on a lighter note before we go deeper into the grief and the other parts of our lives? Just want to check with you that.
So, Anush, the story you're referring to is actually a conversation I had with my nephew a little while back. And like many in his generation, he's also navigating the whole, the dating scene, which he finds incredibly confusing. And he's like, I don't know what the right thing is anymore. When you guys were in your 20s, I'm sure it was much easier. Well, that's what he thinks. So he said, well, I said, so what do you mean? He said, oh, there are so many questions. Like, start with the basics. Who should pay the bill? Should I pay the bill? Should we split? Should I let her pay? Like, I don't want to come across as someone who's controlling, but I also don't want to seem like someone who's disrespectful, right? I mean, the way he was passionately talking about it, I could just, hear him struggle with a very basic and simple question. So I said, do you really mind paying for the coffee or the dinner? He said, well, no, I guess, unless it's a Michelin star restaurant and it's heavy on my pocket. I said, fair enough. I said, how about we look at it from a very different perspective? I said, you're in your 20s. Life has just started for you. There are so many things you're experiencing for the first time in life, right? You've come to a country halfway across the globe, making new friends of different nationalities and trying different food. Are you enjoying it? He said, yes. So I said, that is the lens that they will wear right now. Think of it as an opportunity to get to know a human being who's incredibly different than you are. Someone who's lived through different life circumstances, who's had a very different childhood, thought process, principles, values, right? It's like an opportunity to peep into someone else's world, devoid of any judgment. You don't want to be judgmental. You just listen and listen not to answer. Listen to absorb, right? And if there was ever an option for you to get a peep into someone's life when they are the narrators, I think it would be an incredible experience. Would you put a price tag on such a situation or an experience? Like, well, I never thought about it like that. I said, go ahead, meet new people. It's such an incredible time in your life.
Yeah.
You got to meet new people. You'll have your own set of values, principles, thought process, and there is no tag on it. You just do what makes you happy, and of course, no judgments because you wouldn't like to be judged either. I think many times the answer lies in changing the lens. You're all looking at the bigger picture. So, if think about it, Anuj, if we were given an opportunity to get to know someone when we were in our 20s and everything in the whole world was new, and then I think it would have, what would we not give for such a thing, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not saying we
Yeah.
can't do it now. We can always meet new friends and, acquaintances. But I'm saying it's always a little different when it's new. So yeah, that lens.
Yeah, yeah, that resonated. When you say about the lens, I think most of the times what we are doing is we are thinking about ourselves. Now, what that makes us is it kind of makes us more miserable. If we start looking at, like you said, start listening, start thinking about others, that lens changes, and then you are focused on the other person. So it takes away your own problems, the mind that the mind keeps creating for you. So totally get that, and yeah,
And
it's a good
enjoy it.
perspective.
Like it's
Yes,
such a nice thing just to enjoy it. Why would you want to think, oh, it's gonna be a expensive one? Go to a place
yeah,
that you can afford because it's never about the food anyway, ways.
Correct. All it does is takes your mind away from the food for some time.
For some time. That's just it. Yeah. I mean, how many of us remember what did we
Yeah.
eat? But we do remember. Even if we
Yes.
don't remember the name of the person, we definitely remember the experience, right? And I think that's worth a
Yeah.
Michelin star restaurant bill.
Yeah, yeah. So in my day job, my role is to get people to get to work with people, rather more of a sales job, more of a client facing job. So I think what the ideal thing is, how do you actually make them feel when you talk to them? So like very similar to what you said. So they remember you for the experience that you gave them, not what you said. Or how is more about the kind of experience that you've been able to deliver to that person. So yeah, totally resonates with me. Awesome. So this was nice, Nadia. I think what we also wanted to go a little deeper was wanted to understand, like I talk a lot about my journey and the pain side of it, not because of trying to evoke some kind of sympathy, but try to bring that lens, like you said, to minds which are very similar. Like everybody goes through these conditions. It can be grief, it can be pain, injury, or a simple thought process of only happy when we reach some place. But can you talk about a moment where you faced significant stress, and what happened, how it ended for you, what were you thinking at that time, and how you came out of it? Anything from your personal experience, just to get a little deeper into the kind of experiences you had with either grief or any kind of stress, which was a major event in your life.
I mean, all of us have had some bit of difficulties in life now and then, but I think for me, the hardest one was, of course, losing my mom, but then that was an eventuality, right? My mom was, I lost her to Alzheimer's. So there was quite a journey there. It was an 8-year long journey. So it was not just about the finality of losing her, but also it was a journey that built up to losing her. So I was losing her bit by bit every day. And we knew where we are headed, right? When we were towards the fag end, right? I was, of course, being the primary caregiver, I was in a very not so good mental place. So my dad was insistent that I get a hold of my own life and that it's important that, I focus on what I should be doing. And that at that point in time, it was not about doing the best. It was just about pulling through. Sometimes that is the best you can do. Some days the best you can do is get up from the bed, brush your teeth, and come out. I think that's the best. Right? So what one can do and what one's best is very subjective. So anyhow, and that is when I thought that, a long dream that I had put on hold was coming to the US and doing my master's MBA. So I thought, yeah, maybe. And interestingly, remember when we were talking about work as a coping mechanism? So this for me was a distraction, right? And I wanted a distraction that was meaningful distraction. Not all distractions are bad, right? Some things are inevitable, but you need to shift your focus and attention to something which is productive. So I came to the US, and mostly when people come halfway across the globe, there are a lot of family cheering for you, giving support, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, in my case, all of us were dealing with so many emotions at that point in time that I don't think it would have been fair of me to ask for anything more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I came in here, of course, I did not have the same enthusiasm of having signed up for something new that one normally does. And then I also was teaching at, like you said, the university that I studied from, State University of New York to Buffalo. I was also taking certain classes for undergrads. So the whole experience was keeping me very, very busy, but back at the mind, I knew what is finally coming to be. But yeah, I had to pull through. I knew what was coming. It was an elephant in the room, which was, the room was 90% occupied by the elephant. But it is what it is. And I went through a very, very hard time. Unfortunately, I couldn't share my grief with anyone because grief is not something that you meet one fine day. For me, grief had started showing its glimpses way long. And
Yeah.
then after a while, it started walking with me to the restroom, to the office, to the classes, while I'm eating, while I'm sleeping, everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And I had to find my own journey to live with it amicably. My own take on grief is very, very different. So when I wrote about my piece, When the Ground Beneath You Shifts, it was my way of processing grief and trying to stay present at work. And like I said, grief is not something that follows a calendar, it's just with you all the time. But over the years, I've come to see grief in three ways. And even before I say this, I also want to say that there are a lot of people who will tell you that, oh, I can imagine what you must be feeling. And with all the great intent that the other person has, trust me, no, you
Yeah.
cannot unless you've
Yeah.
gone through it. So, as someone who's not only gone through it, but is still in the process of it, I can tell you that A, grief is yours for life. It is not going anywhere and it's deeply personal. And so you think that it's going to get okay. The second thing is you learn to live with it. So think of it as a stone in your pocket. Initially, it's going to get a lot of attention from you because your mind will keep on telling you, oh, there's a stone in you. Oh, there's a large or heavy stone on you in your pocket. And you'll be drawn to it. What will happen is, it's not that one day you will take the stone out and keep it on your shelf. That won't happen. You will carry it with the rest of your life, but you'll learn to be okay with it. In fact, there'll also come a time when occasionally you will take it out of your pocket, clean it, reminisce it, and happily put it back. Because then you're not carrying it out of a burden. And you know that, whatever you got was beautiful. And it was meant to be that way. Right? And third, and the most important thing is, grief is also very transformative. So my mom was detected with a disease when she was 54. So she had an effective life of only 54 years, which is very short life, right?
Yeah.
But what it also told me is that as much as I love her, her story is hers. Mine has to be about me, right? And God knows how much time do I have left. So I want to be there for everything. I want to enjoy the work that I do. And I think I'm incredibly lucky that I'm in a profession wherein the moment I am in a situation wherein I have to design a technology or a people solution or a strategy, I'm like a kid with, a set of puzzles and I'm onto it and it makes me happy. And it's never a burden. It's fun for me. It brings me joy. So even if it is a distraction, it is a distraction which is very joyous and fulfilling for me. It may
Yeah.
not be the same for everyone. And that's why I keep saying, when I started living consciously, I was like, am I miserable? I said, no, I enjoy what I do. In fact, I love what I do. And that's one of the reasons why, I've been able to be so-called successful, but I'm happy with whatever I have achieved in life. But the second thing is, which is very, very important, that in all genres of your life, you want to live consciously. For example, how do you want your relationship to be with your friends, with your father, with your brother, with your husband, wife, whoever, right? How are you going to live with them? And more so than, checking in like, hey, sorry, couldn't get time. Like, it's okay. All of us are caught up, but just pick up the phone. Pick up the damn phone, right? You never know who needs it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it was a knock on the door for me saying, you better be conscious about what you're doing. And that is why I am leaving nothing for tomorrow, Anuj. So the whole entrepreneurial bug has also bit me because I want to do something. In fact, I believe in it so much so that I think it's my gift to the world. Because if it helps lessen anyone's misery even by a bit, I think my job is tough. I think
Yeah.
that's the greatest achievement. Yeah.
That's really touching.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
there is
Yeah. It's really
there is
touching.
no one size fits all, and you do
Yeah.
you, whatever makes you happy.
I think everybody has their own story of grief, and we've all gone through it or will go through it. It's inevitable. You can't escape it. It is very transformative. Like you said, it stays with you always. In my journey, what I've experienced is with the loss of my parent. The story always is there. It never goes like a stone. You said. But there are ways in which we can, like you said, you polish it, you shine it, and all. There are ways that you can change that story and you can make a story of transformation even a gift to and it kind of triggers things in you where you change as a person. So and that is a gift that the whole experience of life has given you. Totally aligned with that, and thank you for sharing that. That was really amazing. So, Nazia, coming to the place where we started talking about stress and mindfulness is where we started interacting, which is the workplace, right? When we wanted to get a take from you on the workplace, There were a few things that you were very passionate about. You've written about. We talked about grief, but you also are very passionate about talking about the high performer paradox, right? Uh, and we're seeing it everywhere, and that is something that nobody can escape. Who is in the workplace or who has his own thing also, how mental issues are manifesting in top performers, right? People don't want to miss deadlines, they want to show up, they want to give a very resilient front, but it is taking a toll, right? So that's a very that's not even an elephant, like everybody knows it is there now. It's out there. So can you share what you are seeing in the workplace and what's your perspective on it?
Sure. And how I share a story with you so that it becomes more relatable.
Yeah.
So, a few years into my career, and I had an experience that really shaped the way I think about high performers. Anuj. So, there was a colleague, and let's call him Tarun, right? He was one of the brightest sales leaders in the organization. He was young, impressive, constantly at the top of his game. Everyone liked him a lot. Clients, leaders, colleagues. He was someone who you could call unstoppable, right? Very reliable. Interestingly, one fine day, my manager asked if I could check in with him and find out what's up with him or if something's going on. And I was like, I was surprised that why is she asking me to check? She said, "Oh, you guys are friends, so I caught." I said, "Yeah, sure." And what a coincidence. Within the next a day or two, I bump into him in the elevator and I'm like, "You free for coffee?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, let's grab some coffee." So we, set up some time. Both of us were sitting and talking. And he said, while work had always been his priority, his safe space, his personal life was becoming very, very strained. And his wife often felt that he was not giving her enough time and he was too distracted by work or preoccupied by work. And he was torn between being the best version at work versus giving time back at home to wife. And I think this whole pressure of, being the best all the time just killed him and in fact killed his relationship. That particular conversation, made me realize something very, very critical and important. So many a times when we look at the high performers, we only look at how successful they are and how people are gaga about them and they are praised a lot and they have everyone's attention and they are on forum getting awards. That nobody talks about it. What's the price that they've paid for it? Trust me, everything comes at a cost. So one has to be very cautious about at what cost I'm getting this and am I ready to pay that cost? Sometimes, say in my case, I was directing all my energy towards, getting a 4.0 in my studies. And, I was also working inside the campus for 10 hours, outside the campus for 10 hours. So I had another job also. So, as much as it was a way for me to get distracted, for Tarun, there was no such thing. He was giving his 100% at work and his life, personal life, and for us, which later on unfolded in a way that even he started losing things and timelines at work. And the whole organization, had a very change of image and perception about him. So my only two cents are one has to be high performer. And you know what? I think when you say high performer, I just want people to know that you have to give your best, right? And it's not just about work or your personal relationship. It may be anything. For that matter, if I am writing a piece or an article, I have to give my best because it is coming from me. So it has to be a reflection of the best that I can be, right? It may or may not be at par with other people. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. But I want everyone to know that if there's anything coming from me, at least it's my best version. Because I've put a lot of heart and soul into it, else I would not even sign up for it. Right. So I think it's important that, one has very, very realistic expectations. And the organization will also have to learn at the end of the day that too much of good for a very long time sometimes thin people out.
Yeah.
Right. So you
Yeah.
have to phase them out. You have to understand what it takes. But you also have to understand that it's very human. See, understand. You have to normalize it. Normalizing means normalize the pain, normalize talking about pain because that is something that makes us human. Normalize talking about failures, normalize talking about mistakes, normalize stuttering and stammering because that's what makes us human. It's not a recorded robotic voice that's gonna utter the right thing all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So there are a lot of things that we need to normalize so that it's okay, so that other people don't feel as if it's a pressure for them.
Yeah, Nazia, that resonated a lot because I think two things that I took from what you said. One is that it's a choice that you have to make, and the choice is sometimes that you have to go 100% in a particular thing, that so you sacrifice the other aspect of your life, and you have to be okay with that. So that is the one thing that I took from. And second is that you have to give your best. You cannot ensure that it will be the best that it will come across, or people will like it, not like it, but what you can do best is what is matters more to everything, is what
And for
is
clients
important.
at workplace, what some people, some leaders, without realizing it, I've often seen my peers do it with their team, saying that last time the product that you gave, the output that was so amazing. I'm expecting
Yeah,
the same quality. I'm expecting
yeah,
the same output. It cannot be lesser than that. And I'm like, man, how is it possible for an individual to keep giving that quality of output? Like it's a pressure, right?
Right. Yeah.
And and also what happens is we don't realize it, but indirectly by the way of our words and our sentences and our emotions, we put a bit of pressure on people. Some people
correct.
need it, trust me. Some people do not know that there is so much that they are capable of. And I think a leader's job is to help the individual realize their potential. So sometimes a little bit of coaxing, sometimes a little bit of, do you really think this is the best you can do? Do you want to spend some more time? Which is fine because I know that the other person is supremely capable, right? But there are times when you see that you're grinding unnecessarily a lot. So, you should say that enough. I think you should find something new. We should find you a new project to work on, right? It's been a lot. So, when you're
Yes.
invested in people, you will know that they're going through so much, and then you start looking at them more humanely. And that is what I want to teach you. I mean, share with you is one of my leaders, and I'm not allowed to take the name of the organization or the individuals. He'll say, I've always been so impressed by him because he would ensure that during lunchtime, he would come and sit on our team table and he would be like, so, what's up? And I'm not talking about work. What's happening at home? What did you eat? Which is the new place did you visit? What did you do on the weekend? Things like that. None of the personal stuff, but some fun stuff. He was just getting to know us better, right? What do we enjoy? And he would often come to us like, hey, I'm planning to go for a, meal with my family. Where should we go? And then for different things, he would go to different people. And the interesting thing is there were 280 people on the floor and he knew each and every one of them, not only by name, but also by what ticked them, what made them happy. And it was such an incredible experience. And I must also use this as a forum to share that I have had an incredibly amazing set of leaders and mentors. And that is one of the reasons when I work with the people, I try and I act like a baton because whatever I have received is what I'm going to give it to the others, right? I have got only amazing stuff from them, like very human stuff, things that, you could just call them and say that, I'm not coming to office. And I had normalized this, by the way. Anuj, in my team, I had this normalized and I said, if you don't want to come to office, and you're perfectly all right, okay? It's just that you're not feeling well. And I completely understand that's a very legitimate reason. So don't lie to me. Just say that I'm not feeling like, I mean, feel free. So, I would often get message like, this is one of those days that I'm like, okay, you don't want to get out of bed. It's perfectly perfect. And I think and then I would be like, you took it off. You better, slept well, ate well, or had fun at least. So that's important. And if you need anything else, we're always there. So
Yeah, I think one thing which is really stood out was the fact that you talked about normalization. So we stutter, we make mistakes, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's the human experience, right? You cannot be a chatbot. You just says, even a chatbot makes a lot of mistakes these days. So I like that part, normalizing. And when you talked about the mentors and leaders, I really feel that we've had the privilege of having like amazing leaders in our past, and the baton that you said, we give what we were given earlier. I
absolutely.
really hope that we continue to see those kind of leadership in the corporate sphere, which is many a times missing. And we are all about just calling what is wrong and not talking about personal things, not understanding the human side of people. So I think that is something that should really, really come across in leaders and towards their employees and peers as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Also, another interesting I want to share with you. So many times people will ask you, how are you? And you'll say like, hey, I'm fine. So people who know me, they know that you don't have to ask her a question like, are you, oh, how are things? Because if you asking me that question, you're gonna get a very, very long answer to it. Why did you ask if you did not mean it? So ask me only things that you mean. Otherwise, you lose the essence. So I think we have to, own that bit quite a lot.
Never ask Nazia, how are you doing today? Otherwise, you'll get the
Oh
full
my
story or
God.
none of it.
Told you like I have had such a busy day, blah blah blah, and I went on and on for 5 minutes. That's just me. So yeah.
It works for me. Awesome. So, last bit of what I wanted to ask you, Nazia, was we also talked about work being the coping mechanism, and you've talked about that many a times. So, anything that you want to, any story or any personal bit that you want to talk about, because a lot of people take work as a coping mechanism to kind of distract themselves. So, is there anything that you want to add to that topic?
Yeah, I think there is nothing wrong as work being a coping mechanism. Sometimes we all need a distraction. As long as it works for you, fair enough. And many people will say it'll become unhealthy. Trust me, as an individual, it works till the time it doesn't. And you yourself will know that the time has come that it's not working anymore. And I have lots of friends who are psychologists, and I often keep telling that I have become a procrastinator and that I have so many things on my to-do list. And they're like, don't do them. It's okay. I'm like, how will it happen? And they'll be like, well, there will be a day when you will not be able to procrastinate anymore. Wait for that day. It's okay. You need time. Sometimes you need to push yourself to a place which brings the best out of you, right? So that's perfectly all right, Kopi. What my thing is that do not start living a life of escapism. It cannot be your escapism, uh, route. Important thing about conscious living is also that even if you're trying to distract yourself, be very clear in your mind that this is just a distraction. But someday, on a day I'm more peaceful and calm, I'm going to take it out of the box, process my emotions, understand what is it that is frightening me, and then clean it, deal with it, and be done with it. Right? It's like that closet which is always pending a better organizing. So you have to decide which day, perhaps, and just go ahead and do it.
That's really great. Before we end, Nazia, I mean, something that I want to talk about was that we don't want to leave without giving some kind of tools for listeners, because we just don't want to say that become this, do not do that. It's very difficult for even for us, right? Even people who are conscious of emotions or uh, see their emotions in a more clearer fashion still struggle day to day, keeping a mindful approach to life or having that lens to life, like you said. So we are all having that similar experience and we are grappling with these issues, but there are ways in which we can find a better quality of life or a experience of life. So I try to do my bit by giving a free course on my website to anyone who wants to follow a practical framework to get out of their minds. I think for starters, one can even identify that this is a condition that is created by the mind, is just a figment of the mind, a story by the mind, and it's not our reality. It's
Yes.
just a it's a great starting point for anybody who wants to do that. So do visit the website, do look at that course, and I hope you find something useful from there. The very last bit of the this episode, what I want to do is we'll wrap up with one piece of advice that Nazia you want to give people who are entering the workforce or who continue their journey in the workplace, something to help them enjoy the ride a little more. Anything that you want to share?
Yeah, of course. There's just one thing, and that I keep saying this to everyone I meet, that if you're not having fun, you're not at the right place. Simple thing. If it is your work, you're not having fun, you're not at the right place. If in your relationship you're not having fun, you're not at the right place. And when I say right place, I don't mean the right person. I'm saying that in that relationship, both of you have to come to a place wherein you're having fun. And by having fun, I mean you're enjoying yourselves. Life is a one time shot. So just Do what makes you happy. Live very consciously. And if you need any bit of help in doing that, go get Olami. I'm sure that'll help.
And Nazia, how can someone listening to this show reach out to you?
So I am very much available on LinkedIn. My name is Nazia Tasleem, and it's easy to find my profile. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, so you can just find me there. Or alternatively, my email address is nazia.tasleem@gmail.com, which is first name dot last name at gmail.com. So just feel free to reach out to me if there's anything you think I can help you with. I have a lot of my university current enrolled students who reach out to me for mentorship or some support or whatever. So I'm more than happy to share whatever little bit I can or whatever I know. My mantra in life is do what makes you happy. Keep having a lot of fun. Enjoy what you do, whether it's your work, relationship, friends. Live very consciously, like is a one-time shot. And there is a very famous couplet that says, अपने मन में डूबकर पाजा सुरागे जिंदगी अपने मन में डूबकर पाजा सुरागे जिंदगी तू अगर मेरा नहीं बनता न बन अपना तो बन. So it simply says that, um, the most incredible feeling is when you take a dip into your own self, because that is your utmost responsibility of living a conscious life. So at least go ahead and do that.
Awesome. That's really nice. Thank you so much, Nadia. That was really really wonderful. I think so much to take from this episode. We'll obviously have notes. We'll try to jot down few things. Try to post in different platforms. But what I really want to say is I learned so much from listening to you. I think whatever we talked about resonates. I really hope it resonates with people listening to it. Like you said, even if they can take one bit of understanding of the mind, some kind of clarity can change their lens of life. It will be totally worth what the time we spend, and these experiences can really help others is what my belief is, and I really hope that that's what your belief as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Nazia. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hi again. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as enjoyed having that conversation. We'll keep bringing you stories from different walks of life, stories that remind us we are all connected in more ways than we think. If you have a story you'd like to share, write to us. And if it resonates with the season's theme, we'd love to bring you on one of our episodes. Before you go, here's a small practice. Take a few minutes each day to step out of your mind. Simply observe your thoughts without judgment. You'll be surprised how this simple act can shift your perspective, bring a quiet sense of contentment, and help you see the bigger picture. It's like recharging your inner system for the day. And always remember, whatever feels difficult right now, help is on the way. Just keep stepping out of your mind and keep at it. Alright, until next time, take it easy.